Hi my loves, welcome to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to recreate this beautiful piece. Do subscribe to the channel, share to friends, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. So loves, the first thing for us to do is to fold your fabric into two, which I've done. Okay, now go ahead and insert the full length of your fabric. Alright, so the full length you're working with is, so this is where my full length starts from. So I'll go ahead and make a rim across that end. Okay, now the next thing to do is, because you're going to be having a velvet bias in front, I'm going to mark 1 inch all the way to the bottom. That is, this is our shoulder line. All right, from there you're going to mark where you're going to insert your waist measurements. So my waist measurement is going to be at 17 inches. The person I'm working on is a plus size, that is why. Then my hip measurements, which is at 24 inches. Alright? Now, the next thing to do now is, on this shoulder line, we're going to go ahead to insert our shoulder measurements. And we have 8.25 inches for our shoulder. Alright? Then, the next is to insert the sleeve plus your seam allowance. So I have 11 inches. I have 10 inches plus seam allowance, making it 12 inches. Alright, so from the bottom of where our sleeve stops, so guys, now from here now, which is where our sleeve ends, we're going to come down to 1 inch. This is for our shoulder slope. Then go back to your shoulder line. From the center 1 inch apart, mark 3 inches, which is your neck width. Connect it to the 1 inch you have for your shoulder seam. So guys, this is what we have. Alright, the next step now is, you're going to go ahead to mark your bust points. Alright, so take a note of your bust point. So for this, the bust point I'm working with is 11 inches. I'll go ahead and mark it, starting from my shoulder line. And this is it. So now, the next thing to do is to insert our body measurements. So, for our bust, we have 43 inches. 43 divided by 4 will be giving us 10.2 something. So we're going to be using 10.5 for it, approximately 10.5. Then go to our waist measurements. We have 9.75. Go ahead, make sure you divide each of them by 4. Then our hip measurements. So this is what we have. Having done this now, we're going to go ahead and insert our seam allowance. So for this, I'm going to be working with 2.5 inches. You can decide to work with 2 inches seam allowance, okay? So this is what we have. Having marked it now, go ahead and connect the 3 points together. Maybe fence. So I'm connecting now from my waist to my boobs, which is here. Then from my boobs, I'm going to connect. From my waist, I'm going to connect to my hip. And this is what we have. Now this is for our sleeve area. Okay, so this is where our armhole is going to be, armhole curve and all the rest of them. So this is the difference between, from here now you're going to be making a curve. So what you have to do is mark 1 inch or half an inch, starting from this point, to create that curve into your sleeve opening. Okay, and this is what we have. All right, so now the next step to do is, from your hip measurement, go ahead and connect it down to the bottom of your dress. Now the next thing we're going to be working on is the neck area of our dress. Okay, so first thing first is, from your shoulder line, you're going to go down. If you're on a petite side, you're going to be working with 9 inches, but because this person is on the bust on a plus size, I'm going to be working with 9.5. You can decide to work with 10 inches. So I'm going to be working with 9.5 inches. That is for the depth of my neck piece. Alright. So now from my 3 inches neck sweep we marked earlier, I'm going to be connecting to 1 inch here. Remember, we marked 1 inch inwards before inserting our actual body measurements. So from there, I'm going to connect it. And this is what we have. So go ahead and curve it in proper. Alright. So I'm going to cut this out. Then I'm going to be using it to work. I'm not cutting out this first of all. I'm just going to cut it out. Alright, so let's do that.
Please guys, note that earlier on we connected from our neck width to the 1 inch we had, okay, just as you see there, but now it's meant to be connecting to the center of our fabric, not on the 1 inch inwards. So from your neck width, connect to at this point. Now we have our front piece and our back piece together. Now you can decide to fold in your 1 inch you have for your fabric in the front inwards before cutting out your back piece. If you didn't do that, like I did not do that, I'm going to be having XX while shaping my dress. That means the back piece is going to be a little bit bigger than the front piece, but I'm going to trim it off. Now we are left 1.5 inches for our zip. We left 1.5 inches. This is for our zip allowance. Now the next thing to do is to go ahead and cut this out just the way we had for the front piece. The next step now is the depth of our back neckline. For that, I used 1.5 inches for it. The next step now is to split your back. Please, I recommend that you fold in your front piece. That is the 1 inch you have for the sequin design in front. Please, I recommend that you fold it in before cutting out your back piece, please, to avoid the excess. The next step now is to cut out our front neckline. So I'll go ahead now to cut this out. After cutting it out, you also go ahead to split it open, okay, because we'll still have to join the two of them back together, and we are going to be having a slit in front. That is the essence of this splitting.
For my pocket piece, I'm going to be working with a width of 6.5 inches on a fold. You can decide to work with a width of of 7 inches, which is totally fine, okay? So I'm going to be working with 6 to 6.5 inches for my pockets. So first thing first is I'm going to find my 6.5. Then the height of my pocket is going to be 13 inches. You can decide to work with 14 inches. The choice is totally yours. Depending on how wide you want your pocket to be. Alright. So we'll go ahead to cut this off. So we're going to be doing now is we're going to be running a stitch on the front piece. Okay, but before then we're going to make a spacing for a slit in front. Remember, we have a slit in front. So I'm going to be working with 9 inches. You can decide to work with 10 inches or 5, depending on how open you want your slit to be. So I'm going to be working with 9 inches. Alright, and this is where it will stop. So from the upper part of my dress, which is the neck area here, I'm going to run a stitch, and when I get to this 9 inches here, I will tighten it. Okay, after joining my pieces together, that is the front piece together, the next thing I went ahead was to press open it. That is my stitching, which I've done. Now I folded it in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run a stitch on it. All right, down to my slit area, from the up to the down to the slit area. So we're going to go ahead to do that quickly. All right, now I've gone ahead to after running my stitch on my top stitching on it. Okay, so this is what I have now. For my neck area, I went ahead to make a little fold. Okay, ironed it down. Now I'm going to be running a stitch on our velvet bias. These are velvet bias. Place it on top of it. Okay, I'm going to run a stitch on one side of it all the way down. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing for this other side of it. All right, so that's what I'm going ahead to do now. At this point now, I'm done joining the first one, I'm joining the second one. I run a stitch on the first side, is remaining this other side. Please, while doing this, I will suggest you use a pin to secure it down and do it gently. Okay, at this point now, you may have a little fold, which is this area. What you just do is just make a little pleat so that every other thing will balance in together. All right, so the next thing we're going to do now is to cut out a facing for our back piece. Okay, our back piece is going to be having a fixing. So that's what I'm going ahead to do. Place your back piece on a folded fabric. Go ahead and trace out the neck area. Okay. And this is what I have. So if you have a weaving machine, go ahead and weave it. If you don't, you can decide to fold it in a little. Okay. So now, the next we're going to be attaching now is our zip. We are done with our fixing. Okay. So now for our zip, I went ahead to place my zip on top of my fabric. Okay. After placing the two of them together, and I marked at the end of the zip. I think I left about 2 inches before the end of the zip, and this is where it is. Okay. Now note that we marked 1.5 inches for our zip allowance. Now I'll mark it here all the way down to the bottom of my dress. So I'll go ahead and run a stitch on it, then fix my zip to my dress. Okay, this is what we have after fixing our zip. Now I'm going to go ahead, before joining my shoulders together, I'm going to go ahead and place this. So to close up this area now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold my zip this way. I may have to trim out this excess I have here at the upper part. So I'll hold it in this way. You don't stitch it here, but if you do it this way, you're going to be having that straight line on it. So the preferable way to do this is just hold it in this way. Go ahead and run a stitch on it here. So when you're done, join your shoulders together. That is the back shoulder, this one, and the front piece together. So loves, when you're done fixing the zip, this is what we have. This is what it looks like. Okay. So now go ahead to join your shoulders together, the back piece and the front piece. So guys, at this point now, I'm done joining my two shoulders together. Then for my sleeve area, I went ahead to fold it inwards, and this is what we have. Now I've marked my shape line, okay, for my dress. Now from this point now, which is the bust line, I came down to 8.5 inches. Okay, then gave a spacing of 7 inches. This is for my pockets or my pocketing. All right, then continue downwards. The same thing I did for this other side. So I'm going to go ahead and shape my dress, then fix my pockets to my gown. All right, right now we are done making our piece, and this is what we have.